And welcome back to our social hour right here on K24 this morning. Thank you so much for sticking with us. We sure hope that you are enjoying our programming so far. If you do, why don't you let us know through our social media platforms at K24 TV is how you can reach us, and our WhatsApp number, pretty active. We'll be taking a look at some of your feedback shortly. My name is Shiko Kaitani, and even as we begin, we've got quite the discussion, let me tell you, and we're touching on the issue of drugs, sex, violence in schools today. And let me tell you, my show doesn't even need an intro because the internet has already set the stage for our discussion. I'd like you to do me a favor and just simply search this: student kills teacher. You'll probably see the top 6 searches are crazy, you know? Student killing teacher over water, student killing teacher over this and that and that. It's quite disturbing. Unfortunately, violence has become a recurring issue in schools today. Let's not forget the number of underage pregnancies, the drugs and substance abuse cases, the arson cases in institutions, etc. All this has left parents and the society at large asking the big question: what is going on with today's generation? So let's see if we can put a finger on it as to what really is triggering young people towards destructive behavior, and how best we can guide tomorrow's leaders to focus on personal growth and leading a productive life. Well, I dare say that this really does form our question of the day, and let's put that up on the screen very quickly, Director. And so we ask you, what do you think is triggering young people towards destructive behavior? We're talking about the drugs, the sex, and the violence, and what ought to be done. Talk to us. Yet again, those social media platforms are right there on your screen. I'll start by introducing Richard Wafula. He is a counseling psychologist with Amani Center. He's done some extensive work counseling young minds and people, by the way. Karibu sana, Richard, to the show. Right at the center is teen mentor Catherine Karira, extremely passionate about walking and guiding Kenya's youth. Karibu sana.
Asante sana, Shiko.
And then we've got educator Ekra Ndungu. She also happens to be the Secretary General for the Kenya National Association of Private Colleges. She also happens to be quite fluent in German. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I keep forgetting. And someone actually sent good morning on our WhatsApp messages. So I was telling them that we've got someone who speaks German coming on the show.
Yes.
Good morning.
Guten Morgen.
Guten Morgen. We've learned something new.
Yes, wow.
All right, so as you start texting us in, let me start off with you, Richard, because, you know, we want to understand this from a psychologist's perspective. You know, they always say destructive behavior is a way for someone to be communicating something. Could there be something our young people are trying to communicate to us, but we're just not understanding?
Yes, Shiko. Psychologically, we will want to look at these behaviors originating from somewhere. So where are these behaviors originating from? They're originating from families. You know, poor parental upbringing. Family instabilities, conflicts in families. Because then some of these behaviors that we're talking about today, Shiko, are learned, are observed. What are we teaching these young ones? You know, because then we are products of our families. And it starts in our families. This behavior starts in our families. Before even it gets out there in the society, where they'll be influenced negatively by the peers, where they'll access negative information in the social media, where, you know, they'll learn not to be assertive and making wrong decisions in their lives. I'll still want to go back to the unit, the family.
It's the family.
You know, and
starts there.
It starts there. You know, it starts there. One of the theorists, Sigmund Freud, you know, talks about our personality being fully developed in early ages. So where are we getting these habits or tendency of violence?
Right.
If you are brought up in a family where perhaps you're abused, you know, neglected at some point, then, I mean, psychologists say what gets in has to get out at some point. And therefore, what gets in us when we are that young, at some point will get out.
Will come out. Okay, and then let me rope you in, Ekra, because I'm seeing you know, some similarity here as in regards to where they are taking out this anger. It's in the schools. Could there be some frustration students today probably have with the education system that perhaps even as parents we're not understanding, because they are taking it out on their teachers, they are taking it out on, you know, their mentors? I mean...
Basically, what has happened, Shiko, is that we have had so much focus on IQ.
Yeah.
As a parent, you want the best grade. The school wants the best performance.
Yeah.
The school wants to produce 70 A's, 60 B pluses, and the least
Wow.
is a B minus.
Yes.
So the focus has been on IQ. There has been zero focus on EQ,
Yeah.
emotional intelligence. How are we teaching our children
Yeah.
to process their emotions? How are we teaching our children on conflict resolution methods?
Right.
Because human society is the same.
Yeah.
There is a way how you have seen people let out their anger. For us, even instead of even trying to dig out,
Yeah.
why have they done this? In what Wafula has talked about, he has talked about Sigmund Freud.
Yeah.
And there is one thing that Sigmund Freud also says, the 5 whys. Do we even bother to ask the 5 whys?
Yeah.
Why did they ban the school?
Yeah.
Why did they do this? The first thing that we do is the police vehicle ads there
Right, before anything else.
before anything else.
Right.
So we are promoting violence because they really beat them up.
Right. Right.
Before even we get to listen, what happened?
Right.
We cannot justify gross misconduct. We
Yeah.
cannot justify any bad behavior.
Yeah.
But we can do something to mitigate that bad behavior. And as educators, we can do it in advance
Yeah.
by involving everybody, from the parent, from the children.
Yeah.
And I had an interesting discussion this morning,
Yeah.
and I was telling a parent that you could even ask for feedback. As an educator,
Yeah.
I've been working with youth the last 20 years. And one of the things I love listening is their feedback. How do you think we are managing you?
Right.
Remember, kids are small, they are adults in small bodies.
Right. And they're quite honest, brutally
They are,
honest.
they are brutally honest.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of feedback. You will go to a school and ask them, why did you ban the school?
Yeah.
They will tell you because they don't know how to express those emotions.
Wow.
At the age of 2,
Yeah.
when a child starts tantrums,
Yeah.
the psychologists have told us that give them timeouts. So we are teaching them that our love is conditional. That for me to love you,
Yeah.
you must have modeled good behavior, you must do ABCD.
Yeah.
We reprimand them 24/7. So we do not even tell them that it is okay because you are throwing tantrums out of anger.
Right.
So this is how you process your anger. Cry until you're done.
Right.
So when you're done, we can have this conversation.
Very interesting perspective there, Ekra. Catherine, I'm coming to you now because, oh my, I saw this headline yesterday. This is from the Standard. And at the top of the Standard from yesterday's paper, it says, hundreds of schoolgirls give birth on examination day. And then it goes on to say that this year's national examinations kicked off with a fair share of challenges, including a large number of female candidates sitting tests as mothers or giving birth moments before writing their final papers. But it goes on to say what really did stand out yesterday was the high number of pregnant girls that the Standard put conservatively around 200. 200. Authorities blame the huge number of underage pregnancies and teenage mothers to the long stay at home by learners during the COVID-19 pandemic.
So sad that the girl is the one that gives birth and the men.
Continue. But who should we be blaming COVID-19 or should we be blaming the parents?
We are not going to blame anybody. I wish there was somebody to blame. What we need to do is
Right.
bear responsibility. And it is true that COVID-19 sent our home for the longest
Yeah.
ever holiday,
Yeah.
which turned wrong on them. When our children came home for holiday, they encountered what I call bored.
Yeah.
And we not tell them how to go through their boredom. Bishiko will tell us to be very creative.
Yeah.
We never taught our children to be creative. Oh, will tell us to organize our children before they are disorganized. And we know the people that want to disorganize are so many,
Right.
including their bodies because on hormone.
Yes.
R, that is the word board. R will tell us ready for the future.
Yeah.
What our children need to know, and here again this morning, that sex is not an emergency. Nobody will ever die for not having sex. That one I keep saying every day.
You do.
E, what we need to bring our children up is to exercise their mind, their body and soul, because they have the energy.
Yeah.
Where are they going to take this libido energy? They must know how to exercise. D, then we must train them to do only what is necessary. When they came home, they were excited, super good, because when we go to school, who want to go to school longer than normal anyway, and they all want to come home.
Yeah.
So they came home very excited. Unfortunately, we the grown-ups exploited our children. That is why we found so many girls that have been defiled. And as I always say, the men, including Wafula, they don't give birth. So the girls are the ones that bear the blame.
Right.
Then also we see they went out to experiment. Why are they experimenting? We tend to experiment more on what we don't know,
Right.
or on what we think we know.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, parents think that when they talk, they are doing bad manners. No, we should talk. And Shiko always walk up with my
always
Bible,
walk with your
because
Bible.
the word of God tells me we have a young sister, and her breasts are still small. What shall we do for her when the young man comes talking to her?
It's true.
So the time to be talked comes.
Yes.
And of course, because the girl has feelings when they are held, Shiko, you know, I normally say they feel paragasha. What we need to tell them is that their response is their responsibility.
Okay.
Keep social distancing because you're hormones.
This is such a timely discussion, dear viewer, because remember, the same people we're talking about are going to be home in just a matter of days, correct? And so remember, the question of the day still stands. What do you think is actually triggering young people towards destructive behavior? And by the way, we want solutions, because this is a solution-based discussion. What do you think ought to be done? Wafula, I think we need to drive this point home, because we don't really understand how this will actually impact the character of the individual in future. So when you see a student who has hacked a teacher, who has burnt the dormitory, a huge indicator as to who they will be as an adult, in your opinion?
Yes, yes. And Shiko, before I touch on that, allow me to just revisit what my colleagues have shared. And I want to pick from even what Ekra said about emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Connecting it with what we are reading, or rather what we read yesterday in the standard paper. I had a client 2 weeks ago, a 17-year-old girl who is struggling with relationship.
Yeah.
And she started having sex at 13 years old.
Wow.
13 years. To date, by the time she was seeing me for a session, she had actually had sexual encounters with more than 20 men. And so what I aimed at finding, what was the reason behind that?
Right.
And I discovered that the emotional absence of the father, especially the father who has been an absentee father emotionally and physically, actually pre-exposed this child into getting what she was lacking at home. So for me, parents play a critical role in actually shaping the behaviors of our children.
Wow.
Another one, just yesterday, this is a 23-year-old now, she was actually sexually molested at the age of 8. She's now telling me she is an addict. I mean, she can't stop masturbating. Because of what happened in her life at the age of 8 years. So you can imagine what is playing around, in this family social setup that is actually now giving birth to these behaviors that we are seeing. And yes, Shiko, to your question, are we likely to see, these people becoming who we are now, observing now?
Yeah.
Yes and no. Yes, because then if these behaviors are not eliminated, if these behaviors are not,
dealt with,
then this person will definitely,
morph
grow
into something.
Yes,
Okay.
And that is, some of them we are seeing, in prisons even now. I mean, somebody did not just start, wake up one morning and
start becoming a murderer. Where did it come from? Well, okay, Kenyans are talking to us from what I understand, and I'm sure, we're all excited to see what they have to say. Someone says, for me as a student, sometimes the parents focus a lot on work, neglecting the child. Isn't that what you said, Ekra? And at the same time, there are changes happening within them. Another thing is that sometimes as students, there is no connection with parents. Like sometimes we fear even approaching them and expressing our emotions. The only solution for me is trying to make a good and conductive relationship between parents, like the parents to be more of a friend. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We appreciate it. Someone says, morning. The first school for any child is home. There are some things that aren't taught in school, like saying that thank you rather, sorry, excuse me, sir, madam. Therefore, moral decadence in the society is rooted on poor parenting and more privileges accorded to children. The rod has been spared and the children are getting spoiled. Another thing causing all of this is technology. Some movies and music watched and listened to by the children make them learn being chaotic and immoral, e.g. hip-hop music, horror movies, etc. All right, so media also glorifying this kind of behavior.
Yes,
Okay. We've got one here that says children should know that it's better to lose all and save the character. Parents have neglected their responsibility and leaving it to teachers, of which teachers become overwhelmed. Drugs. Children have become drug addicts because parents don't want to know who their children's friends are and what they do when they are lonely. Remember, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. So as a result of this, we need to keep an eye on our children. Also, you will see parents going to church, leaving their children behind in the house. What are they teaching this generation? Exclamation mark. All right, so thank you so much. Keep them coming. We'll continue sampling them. Ekra, you're very big on, or rather you're a big believer on life skills.
Yeah.
And you feel we have perhaps left, or rather let our children down, or our youth down, by not focusing on that. So what are these life skills that what do you mean by emotional intelligence? Where do I start? What's that even, you know?
Thank you, Shiko.
Yeah.
Basically, what we mean by emotional intelligence, we all have emotions.
Yeah.
Right now, when I was coming in, I was the last one to get in, and you were looking for me.
Yeah.
You could have chosen to become angry that you can't see me.
Right. I could have chosen, yes.
Yes. But you chose just to wait a little bit and see what could have happened.
Yeah.
Maybe my heel broke or something.
Right.
So there is that point of managing your emotions with proper reason.
Wow. Yeah.
And this is something that may not even be taught in school.
True.
Some of us who are privileged to have our grandfathers and grandmothers, they could always ask,
Yeah.
why are you shouting at the child? She was trying to manage the parents' emotions. Reacting to things with proper emotions. Then when we talk of more life skills like conflict resolution,
Yeah.
we have our children, we have made it a habit to respond with anger, to respond with beating,
Yeah.
to respond even before listening.
So as a result of that, they will pick up a matchbox
Yes.
and touch the dome.
Because they need to to show that emotion. They
Right.
need to express it because there is the education within
Yeah.
and the education around. So from within them, they are bitter.
Yeah.
They have grown up maybe in a dysfunctional home, and maybe we redefine what is a dysfunctional home.
Yeah.
Because some people assume that a dysfunctional home is a home of a single parent.
Yeah.
A dysfunctional home
Yes.
is a home whereby it is not conducive for any child to grow up in.
Right.
So they pick those vices. Some of these are neglected to fend for themselves from the age of 10.
Yeah.
They are just left alone. Some are even pushed out by their parents. You're a big girl, you can take care of yourself.
Right.
I'm sure as a teen mentor, she has encountered that. We have encountered that in the process of mentoring these young people.
Right.
We have also not told these girls, how do you manage being told that you're beautiful,
Yes.
you're the best.
Uh-huh.
So that is another, it's a process of,
process.
of wisdom, of emotional intelligence,
Yeah.
because you need to tell the girl, hello, we can walk around each and every hospital in this country. There is no one who is admitted because they have not had sex.
I love it. So let's switch gears for a second there, Catherine. And when you talk about conversations around sex between parents, teachers, children, obviously, how do we go about addressing this? Because there's a parent who's watching who's saying, okay, I've got this challenge. I know it's happening. Obviously now, I think even the story about abstinence, it still works. But a parent doesn't want to come off like they're being too forceful because now you know the rebellion will come out. But at the same time, I need to tell her or him to be safe.
Good. What I want to do, I want to group our children in 3.
Yeah.
We have those that are very innocent, and we must protect the innocence of the innocent. Then we have this one that is almost going bad. Then we have this one that we must redeem. And a child is not brought up by 3: the school, the church, and the mom. Unfortunately, now we have technology,
Yes.
who also tells us how to do it and more do it the negative way. And the first class we have to give our children is the parents themselves.
Right.
Because you're the one who gave birth to this child. As you're cleaning them up, can you introduce them to the body part? And do not assume that they will fight for themselves. I've already said they are going to experiment. Then when we see, like now today, when you're talking about sex, actually all girls should be glued there. So that now the parent can know, what do I say? What do I not say?
Yes.
And then also, Shiko, very simple, on the Bible.
Yeah.
Actually, the same Bible tells me there's a time for kissing and a time for not kissing.
Yes.
A time for making love and a time for not making love. It is here. Not shying away does not help our children.
Right.
Actually, Shiko, every parent, including you,
Yes.
that have a younger one, you start more to benefit from this talk. Because if you grow speaking to your son that these are my private part, nobody should see them, nobody should touch them, they grow up. Then for us, they grow up with the knowledge.
Right.
Then for us, we give them information, we give them warning, and we give them a fact. We say as it is. And I keep saying, can we borrow from the animal kingdoms? The purpose do not mate. Shying away will not help our children. Actually, Shiko, speaking informs our children.
Right.
To be informed is to be transformed.
It's true.
When we don't inform them, they get deformed. So when we don't speak, our children become initial prey for the devil. We speak it as it is. Actually, if anything, Google has told them everything. And the devil, Shiko, is making much money.
It's
Our
true.
brother here has said about masturbation.
Yeah.
Even the word of God has something about masturbation. And masturbation is such a secret, private, convenient habit
Yes.
that is killing our sons and our daughters, even grown up like myself.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's also causing them to go to suicide. So what are we going to do? Shy away?
No, we
or
must
save them?
and save
we
them.
must save them.
Yeah.
We must save them and save them as it is today.
Well, even picking up on the point that she had brought up, how do you even go about correcting someone, you know? Because when we talk about chastisement in a modern day society, what's working, what's not working, Richard, today with young people? Because like someone said, the rod has been spared. So how do you go about telling, you know, someone who's experimenting, someone who's probably done something wrong, that this is the way to go, and then tell them what you did was actually not right?
I think it starts by, you know, the parents, you know, the teachers and the church, as she says, being very assertive, very forthright, you know, being able to psychoeducate, you know, these, you know, young ones, these teens, being able to tell them that this is right
Yeah.
and this is wrong. You know, but what are we, you know, observing in some of the quarters is that we shy away from actually addressing what we need to address. Like sex discussion is an elephant in some families.
Yeah.
You know, parents cannot sit with their children, be it boys or girls, and talk about sex. But when we get to a point where we can comfortably and conveniently be able to sit with these people and tell them, by the way, I mean, what are the risks,
Yeah.
you know, of engaging in early, you know, sex? You know, what are the advantages of not involving yourself in such an act?
Yeah.
But also, what are we also exposing? What are we also showing to these young ones? You know, because if I come home drunk, for example, as a father,
Yeah.
or if I come home with, you know, drugs, then I'm exposing directly, you know, to my children, and therefore they will actually learn and pick it from me. You know, that it is okay if my father, you see, these children look at us as, you know, their role models,
Yeah.
you know, as, you know, they're gods on earth here, you know, and therefore if it is right for me to come with alcohol, to come with drugs,
Yeah.
if it's right for me to actually assault verbally or physically my
Right.
wife when
Yes.
they're there, what will stop them?
That's true.
What will stop
Good
them?
point. Good point. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a short commercial break, but I'm absolutely loving this discussion. We want you to contribute, and we're asking you, what do you think is really triggering everything that we're seeing around us today when it comes to the youth? And we're talking about destructive behavior, the drugs, the sex, the violence that